It's now 2:11 and we're going to kickstart the show with a debate about whether or not power sharing is dead. It's what sets Northern Ireland's government apart from the UK's other devolved administrations. It means that in any government there must be representatives from both the nationalist community and unionists. This way it's hoped that both communities have a say in making the system and their democracy work. I'm delighted to say I'm joined now by Jamie Bryson, who's a unionist activist and author of Brexit Betrayed, Writings from the Referendum to the Betrayal Act. And David Taylor, he's an Ulster Unionist councillor for Newry and also from the Social Democratic and Labour Party councillor, Adam Gannon, joins me on the show. Right, David, can I start with you, please? Do you reckon there's hope still for power sharing in Northern Ireland?
Well, sorry, listen, there's understandably genuine concerns within the unionist community regarding the protocol, and that obviously has put significant pressure on power sharing in Northern Ireland, given the decision by the DUP to remove the First Minister from position. But ultimately, I do believe, in terms of the greater long-term interests of unionism, that a stable, sustainable, devolved government in Northern Ireland is the best way of actually securing the long-term future of the union. So, whilst I have genuine concerns and strong concerns about the protocol and the impact that that's having within Northern Ireland and within the unionist community, I ultimately believe that power sharing and the removal of power sharing is not the way of addressing the concerns that exist in respect of that. We believe that in terms of the decision by the DUP, it's clear that it actually hasn't made any difference in terms of the government's approach to actually dealing with the protocol. It's clear that there's a need for intense negotiations between the UK government and the EU, and the EU need to stand up to their responsibilities. They have been reckless in regards to the position of Northern Ireland and their intransigence in terms of dealing with the issue of the protocol. But ultimately, we believe in a period of intense negotiations and serious negotiations is a way of dealing with this, rather than actually putting the long-term future of power sharing at risk.
Yeah, Jamie, then, turning to you for a second. I'm actually confused by the position set out by some unionists, because ultimately, if we actually say power sharing, let's pull it away, don't we just hand a massive amount of power to Boris Johnson, who betrayed Northern Ireland?
Well, good afternoon, Darren. The issue here is that in 1998, when the unionist community signed up to the Belfast Agreement, it was the Ulster Unionist Party David Taylor's party was the lead party in pro-agreement unionism. And the sole basis of that, in the words of David Trimble at the time, was that the principle of consent would ensure that there was no change to the constitutional status of Northern Ireland, save for the consent of the majority of people living there. And he defined that as the active union, and under that quote, he said the active union is the union. Well, this week the Court of Appeal in Northern Ireland made clear, and this is their words, the active union has been subjugated by the protocol. Northern Ireland is more in the EU than the UK. That's a direct quote from Lord Justice McCluskey. And that the apparent principle of consent, which the Ulster Unionist Party told us was a safeguard, is more like a chocolate fire guard, because it doesn't in fact prevent such constitutional change as the subjugation of the acts of union. Now, if that is the sole basis, and was the sole basis which allowed unionism to support the institutions, how on earth does any self-respecting unionist continue in those institutions when it has been shown very clearly that it was a deceptive snare and unionism was fundamentally deceived? And just finally, on the point that you made in your introduction, at the end of January, the democratically elected unionist minister, Mr. Edwin Poots, instructed officials to halt checks at the Irish sea border. Officials defied the minister. They refused to carry out that instruction. But yet, we now find out today via Sam McBride's reporting that when the European Union instructed officials to increase checks, they did so without any ministerial authority. And it seems we have some type of constitutional coup in Northern Ireland being waged by civil servants, and that is an extraordinary situation.
Yeah, Adam, why should unionist communities have any faith in this process, given the fact that we are hearing reports of officials going with what the line of Brussels is?
Firstly, we have to consider how we got here, Aaron, the first thing is that the people in Northern Ireland overwhelmingly and the people here are in favour of the protocol. Businesses are in favour of the protocol. And the people I talk to every day across my constituency in Fermanagh and South Tyrone, protocol isn't huge. What people are talking about is the cost of living crisis that we're in, hospital wait lists.
Yeah. Well, on that point, as far as power sharing is concerned, Jamie, how would you go about ensuring instead that nationalist and unionist voices were given a voice in government in Northern Ireland?
Well, there has to be a system of government which is inclusive to everybody, and the Belfast Agreement was purportedly based on a balance between unionist and nationalist communities, and that balance was north-south would be protected and east-west. What the protocol has done is it has demolished east-west. It has subjugated the union, subjugated the acts of union. That is what the Court of Appeal has said. And the Belfast Agreement was also based upon the notion that key decisions were to be made with cross-community consent. But when it came to the protocol, and when it comes to the vote on the protocol, cross-community consent has been disapplied, has simply been taken out of the Belfast Agreement in order to neutralise unionists. So the Belfast Agreement has offered and does offer nothing to the unionist community. So if in order to have a stable power-sharing government in Northern Ireland, there has to be a system of government which is fair to both sides and respects both sides of the community. And the Belfast Agreement does not do that. And I go back and I would like to hear what David Taylor has to say on that. The Ulster Unionists sold the Belfast Agreement on the principle of consent. The principle of consent has been shown to be a fundamental deceit. What do the UP have to say about that?
Well, yeah, David, you can answer that question. You can come back to that. But equally, I'd like to know, do you actually think that the unionist, dismissal of the protocol outright and actually a loss of faith in the shared institutions outright, is this because unionism has had its day in Northern Ireland? Are unionists now becoming quite desperate because we're starting to see that Sinn Féin could hold a majority in Northern Ireland?
No, ultimately, I think, Darren, that the clear majority of people in Northern Ireland wish to remain part of the United Kingdom. But there is no doubt, and in fact, my party was the first party out of all unionist parties involved to recognise the dangers associated with the protocol. We've been stating from as far back as October 2019 about the dangers that this would place in terms of the constitutional integrity of Northern Ireland's position with the United Kingdom. So, we were well aware of the dangers associated with this, and we warned the government not to sign up to a deal that was going to place severe damage on Northern Ireland's economic position and the constitutional integrity of our position within the UK. So we're well aware of the dangers that were associated with the protocol. And we're also in a situation here where we're trying to find solutions to that, and serious solutions that will end up securing the long-term future of devolved institutions in Northern Ireland, because as I've already said, ultimately I believe that secures the long-term place of Northern Ireland's position within the United Kingdom. If we have a settled and sustainable devolved government, I believe that will increase support for the union in the long term, irrespective of what people's background may be. So there's a significant piece of work to do here. There's no doubt that the UK has caused severe damage in terms of their approach to this. They signed up to a deal that they should have been clear was going to cause damage to Northern Ireland's position within the UK, but there was almost an urgency on Boris Johnson's part to do a deal, and in doing that he missed out on various issues that have caused the damage that we're now dealing with today. But ultimately the EU needs to stand up their responsibilities too in this, because they have been intransigent throughout this process and haven't faced up to the genuine unionist concerns that there are regarding the protocol. And it's not just about unionism. This damages everybody in society in Northern Ireland.
Yeah, that was going to be my question to Adam there.
Irrespective of what background they come from, being affected by this protocol.
Absolutely. Businesses are struggling, Adam. I know you're saying that you're not hearing it much on the doorstep from people out and about, but do you think that's going to change once it starts to be clear that businesses are just saying, let's not deal with Northern Ireland, it's too complicated?
There's massive opportunity provided by the protocol. To have one foot in the EU market is very important, and a massive opportunity for businesses here. That's what people are saying, and we have to consider what Jamie mentioned there about consent. Brexit wasn't done with the consent of the people of Northern Ireland. There was no cross-community consent there. What did get cross-community consent was the Good Agreement, which enshrines power sharing, which is what we're here to discuss here today. And when you think about it, this whole DUP pointless, it's a selfish political stunt walking out of the executive simply because they weren't performing well in the polls. It's a political move. There's no substance to it. And what we need constructive people who want to work together to resolve the issues. Now, the protocol is by no means perfect. We wanted, and my own party, the SDLP, wanted the closest possible relationship to the EU for not just Northern Ireland, but the entirety of the UK, because that is what the best deal was for us. You can't, and as has been proven by the numerous problems since Brexit occurred, having the closest possible relationship is the way forward, and the protocol protects people. I'm currently about 10-15 miles from the border here in South Tyrone, between North and South. And what's the alternative to the protocol? I know Jamie would be very keen to have a hard border along the island of Ireland, which would just be totally unsustainable. It would destroy communities right across many counties and across the whole border area.
We're going to have to end it there.
Crossing that border every day.
Absolutely. In one word then, from each of you, do you think power sharing in NI has had its day? Jamie?
Belfast Agreement power sharing has had its day. No self-respecting unionists continue with such a fundamental deceit.
David?
It's very hard to answer that question in one word. I think it's under significant pressure, Darren. But as I've already said, I think in terms of Northern Ireland's position in terms of future prosperity and our position with the United Kingdom being sustained, I think it's vitally important that devolution is protected in the long term.
Adam?
Power sharing, it has to continue. It's the only way this place will work. It has to be done to benefit everyone here. And of course, if parties decide to throw the toys out of the pram and not nominate for positions, I think you'll find the public will not like that. And it'll be clear in this election, people will vote in their droves for parties who want to work together and want to see this place work and that support the protocol.
Well, we will see. Thank you very much. Fascinating stuff. That was Jamie Bryson, a unionist activist and author of Brexit Betrayed, and Councillor David Taylor and Councillor Adam Gannon. Thank you very much to all three of them.